The first 4 books of the New Testament are called the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. The word gospel simply means good news, and so these 4 books are these 4 authors telling us the good news about Jesus. Mark was the earliest gospel written around the year 70 AD. This was a tumultuous time, and so his gospel is short, terse, and is full of urgency. Matthew and Luke wrote their Gospels around 85 to 90 AD. Times were a little better then, so their Gospels are a bit fuller. Both Matthew and Luke are where we hear the story of Jesus' birth. Mark and John doesn't tell that part of the story at all. Matthew writes his Gospel with the story of Moses and the Exodus in the forefront of his mind. Jesus' early life and ministry echoes the story of the Exodus over and over again. Matthew's point is clear. Just like God had liberated the Israelites from Pharaoh, so Jesus is sent to liberate us from sin and death. The Gospel of John was written around the year 100. While Matthew, Mark, and Luke's Gospels are very similar, John's is unique. We hear details of Jesus' life that we just don't get from the other 3. And in John, the story of creation is front and center. John begins his gospel with the words, "in the beginning," just like how the book of Genesis begins. In John's gospel, Jesus embodies the light of creation. God said, "Let there be light." John says, that light is Jesus. All 4 gospels tell the story of Jesus from their own perspectives. It would be like asking 4 people who went to the same concert to describe it. Each account would be a little different, but there would be some common themes. The common themes in the Gospels are that Jesus had a ministry of preaching and healing, that he angered the religious and political leaders of his day, and for that he was put to death by crucifixion. And then all 4 Gospels are agreed on the fact that the crucifixion wasn't the last word on the story, but that on the 3rd day, Jesus rose from the grave. The next book in the New Testament is the book of Acts. It was written by Luke, the same Luke that wrote the Gospel of Luke. It's really like a volume 2 or a sequel to the Gospel. It tells the story of how the first followers of Jesus began to change the world after Jesus' death and resurrection. The rest of the New Testament is mostly composed of letters, and most of them were written by a guy named Paul. Early on, Paul was an enemy of the church and was complicit in the capture and murder of Christians just for being Christian. Then he had an incredible spiritual experience that changed his life and convinced him to become a Christian. He spent the rest of his life traveling around the world setting up new churches. When he'd finished establishing a church, he'd leave to start a new church. But he wouldn't forget about the church that he left. He'd keep in touch with them by writing letters. Someone saved those letters, and now they make up the majority of the New Testament.